Good morning. Good morning to everybody. My name is Cesar Reñana. I come from ADISI, one of the company's members in gvSIG. Today's session is going to be fairly interesting in my opinion. It is about the novelties in gvSIG and the version number 2.1. Before we start, let me remind you, we have dinner. We have a dinner this evening. It's 17 euros and the time is 8:30. The first talk is by Álvaro. He's going to talk about all the novelties in the new version. Good morning. Thank you, Cesar. Yes, let me explain the novelties in gvSIG 2.1. Those of you who follow us on the social media, on the blog, you probably know some of these novelties or you're familiar with them because we've already published a few papers and articles on the most outstanding features. As Cesar said, we release all testing and candidate versions, so you can already try them and get to see the novelties in the new version of gvSIG. Those of you who are not very familiar with all the technicalities in gvSIG history, I would like to say that gvSIG 2.1 is part of the branch of gvSIG X, which is a bit of a turning point. A new engine has been manufactured, if I may say so. 2.0 version was released previously, but it had a focus on development for those wishing to further develop the architecture. But this version now is a version for users. Very briefly, what are the advantages of this architecture versus the previous one? Well, these new changes don't have so much of an impact. It takes less time for development, so it would be easier to update our favorite sites or be a lot more flexible in correcting mistakes. gvSIG Roads was presented yesterday. For instance, it is a derived product and it is relatively easy to work with it from this new architecture. This project was presented as well in relation to criminology, as we saw yesterday, but we also have a version gvSIG Educa for secondary education, which is also based on the new architecture. You can pick components up and add them to your product and create a new product very, very easily. Okay, let's have a quick overview of version 2.0 and the novelties which we kept for version 2.1. There is an installer tool which allows us to customize our gvSIG, but we can do this at any time. We can go to gvSIG, the website, open the complements handler or administrator and connect to the new connectivities or facilities and find the plugins that we can have to add more functionality, or even supplements or complements that do not necessarily have to do with new tools such as symbols libraries. So basically the goal is for you to have your customized gvSIG and customize it to your needs. The basic installation obviously includes the more general tools. It makes no sense to install civil protection symbology by default, obviously, as it is very, very specific, but you can do this from the same installation, of course. We also included Python as a language, as a programming language for scripts. We know, gvSIG is developed on Java language. For those of us who are not computer experts, but the procedure is relatively simple. This image is very illustrative. It's the Rubik's Cube. And Python makes it easy. We can do the yellow cube very easily. Symbology. This is very interesting for all of us working on maps. You can generate your own symbol libraries if you have symbology, your organization with a number of symbols and icons very, very quickly. You can import it, you assign it a name and a default size, and that's it. It's already created. And more interestingly, we can create a package automatically as supplement, and that plugin can be installed by any gvSIG user. Since we included this functionality, we decided to evaluate all free use symbologies to try and see which ones could be of interest to gvSIG users, and so we included some of them. One which includes all Google symbols or symbols from OpenStreetMap, forestry symbols as well, based on a library based on USGS, and from the Natural Park Survey of the United States, symbology for criminology, emergency symbology as well, and the United Nations OCHA symbology library. Here we see some images with the symbols library. They include punctual symbols, linear symbols, or polygonal ones. Some of them are very, very thorough, like OpenStreetMap, which, as you can see, has a subcategory, a branch subcategory, included symbols for education, for religious institutions, retail, transport, etc. This is the one for forestry, national parks in the US. This one is for criminology. It's also from the Department for Justice of the United States. This is the emergency library, which is the official library used in Canada, and the official one for humanitarian matters and emergencies from the United Nations. Two more novelties. Two remote access services are included. One of them is OpenStreetMap. You are all familiar with it, with these open source maps produced by users themselves. By default, access is given to 4 services in OpenStreetMap, but you can add any other server. Besides, it allows access to MapQuest and WMTS and the tile layers of the OSM. And there was also a little cocktail, as I call it, of small improvements. Portable views. Here we change the name. It was previously called theme maps, which was a bit confusing because in actual fact the real goal is for users to generate their own views with their viewing scales for the different layers, and so they should be able to generate packages, namely a plugin or a file, a zip file, which includes the setup, the view, plus all the layers, the save files, the raster files, whatever you have on that particular view, which makes it very easy to share things with other users downloading the same view. Otherwise, you would have to send the layers to him or her, tell them what routes they need to follow, etc., etc., what paths, which is a very, very quick way of sharing things. Charts or graphs, another very interesting novelty. It includes multi-graphic documents, as you can see. with all these charts and graphs. Map series, another novelty. It allows users to automatically generate a number of maps, as you can do this in a cartographic institute. It can be very useful for field work, as it facilitates work to a great extent, because based on a template with some scale and area data, everything is generated automatically. Besides, you can export it to PDF files or formats. More things. Well, the remaining functionalities that still had to be migrated from 1.x have already been migrated. This is the case with georeferencing, the georeferencing tool, which has been improved a little bit. With raster, a number of tools have been added, such as the ones you see here. I'm not a raster specialist, I don't know the details of them all, but you can see a few of them. Principal components, assign, projection, interest region, masking, change, data type, multi-file, and now post-GIS support too. One of the main novelties that is the support of raster images, both vectorial and for raster. All caption types have already been migrated, all of them, including expressions, proportional symbols, graduated symbols, point density, category amounts. And we have also added 2 caption types with chart pies and bars. And another interesting novelty, which will be further explained by Cesar, the new layout, the new map. It integrates the table of contents of gvSIG as well. And as far as the new layout is concerned, we have improved the grids. Charts and graphics will be included and integrated in the new layout, and that's a novelty too. Therefore, for map production, I would say things have been improved dramatically. Users will have a lot more tools and in a more flexible way, which was actually one of the demands by users in the community and users who are used to working with proprietary software. Advanced labeling has also been migrated. In version 0, there was only basic tagging or labeling, but now we have an additional tool such as the halo, which is that little cloud which we sometimes see around the labels of the tags, and which can be very useful to give better views, to provide better views. Exportation to KML. It has also been improved with labels. Another novelty, the single geoprocess framework. Here we see an example which integrates tools, raster tools into geoprocesses based on Sextante, the project, with translation into all the languages. And we have integrated all the geoprocesses which formerly were within the framework of gvSIG and Sextante in a single geoprocess framework. And we have taken advantage of this facility, of this functionality, to integrate other things too. and therefore we will be able to work with the modulator and so handle a lot more geoprocesses. And the goal is for this to be prepared to later include Python algorithms and hopefully a lot more libraries. Another extension in the new version. This is probably targeted at a smaller group of users. Generation of captions that can be understood by people with impaired hearing or other difficulties. You can see the captions here. You can filter them out if the user has impaired eyesight or hearing, then automatically captions are filtered out to facilitate their understanding. This may seem a minor change, but the white paper of the International Association of Criminology says this is an essential condition for GIS to be used in criminology. And here we go, another novelty included in the test versions, the alphanumerical editor. You can edit alphanumerical data straight away from this table, which makes it a lot easier to update our own information. It's like a window, an information or data window where we can change data straight away. Derived geometries. This tool already existed in version 1.x. It was not very well known, and so we decided to migrate it into the new version based on a dot layer with specific coordinates. We will be able to generate polygons and lines. You can select an X amount of points or dots and generate a polygon straight away, which can be very, very useful for some tasks. We were asked to integrate it in the new version because in actual fact it was being used to prepare the cadastre of a town, a city with 600,000 inhabitants in Brazil, and it was key for them to have this type of setup. Memory management has also been improved. It was a recurring theme in the community, and it was a bit difficult, a bit of a nuisance for some users, but now we have a window, a dedicated window to extend the memory. As for tables, some improvements have also been made. For instance, support to MS Excel format, CSV support. You can define the properties when uploading it. You can define it as code, etc. We also changed the table properties or features. As you can see here on this pattern column, you can define the way things are viewed. You can define the format you want to view things with. You want to view numerical attributes, for instance. In some countries, decimals and thousands are represented with either a comma or a point, and so you can set it up here. And the interface has also been improved. It is now a lot easier to add a column, to delete it, to enter the records. Before you had to go and deploy, unfold the menu, etc., the pop-up menu. And finally, a little fruit salad with some improvements. There are many more than those on this list, but these are just a few representative improvements. Linux support 64 bits, for Windows 32, but for Linux 64 bits is a very good way of making the most of all the potential. We have also updated the database of EPSG, which is good news. For instance, the one for OpenStreetMaps was not included in the former versions. And other simple functionalities such as drag and drop layers from an Explorer file browser, import or export captions in SLD format, other functions for the field calculator, support for raster in scripting, and hundreds of bugs have been detected by the community and corrected. Post-GIS connection has been improved, etc. So we believe the new version includes quite a few functionalities, plus improvement in architecture, and more symbols have been included, such as the ones you can see here, coming from an open source project called Mapbox. Symbols for geology as well. Geological symbology is always very, very complex. This one is based on USGS symbology, and it includes a wide range of geological elements. And it also includes the whole stratigraphy standard of the International Association of Geography. Now we can see more symbols for commerce, included symbols for banks, shops, defense, more symbols. There is a standard as well for representing military elements, APP6, with thousands of symbols available on gvSIG version 2.1. And a totally different field now. This one is not yet available, but is prepared, and it will be included in the final version. Symbols for geoactivism. They are based on a book by an Argentinian group, Mapeo Colectivo. More symbols, this time colors, based on a project called Color Brew, with very interesting color palettes for users to find colors easily when they choose colors for their maps. More symbols. This one is well known. AIGA is symbology for airports. This standard is used in all airports all over the world, and it includes the color palette as well. Meteorology. There is also a meteorology issued by the World Meteorological Organization. These are standardized symbols to depict different weather elements and conditions. So it will be available on gvSIG 2.1. Our primary goal was to achieve a version which can be robust, stable, scalable, and easy to handle. To finish with, what are we working on now? gvSIG 2.1. Well, let me tell you that the third candidate was released 2 days ago, and the final version will be released very, very soon. We just have to handle a couple of things, deal with a couple of things, but it will be published and released in the coming weeks for sure. And with this version, we will publish a new website encompassing the two websites that we now have. This new website will be a lot more modern. It will include a database on PhD theses, research projects, etc. And I think it will be very useful to all community users. More things that we're doing at this moment in time. Well, we plan on releasing version 2.1 very, very quickly, very soon. And as I said, the improvements are there. But we want to continue fine-tuning things with the community, and therefore we are working on improving editing, In fact, editing had given rise to a lot of complaints by the community in the past, so we are working on it. We're also working on integration, and a few tests have already been done with worldwide, with NASA project. And I think this will draw the attention of other communities too. Besides, it is developed on Java too. We're also working on symbology and labeling by scale, which is very interesting indeed, and this is almost finalized. Authenticated OGC services, soil formats or subsoil formats for geology, oil work, etc. OGC service publishing, and another thing which will happen straight away after version 2.1 is the official version for Mac, which is our next priority, and a gvSIG distribution for Brazil, because the Brazilian government has an official repository in which gvSIG will be included as the first non-Brazilian software. That's very important as well. We're having everything in a particular language with an X system of coordinates with all the services assigned by default. And based on version 2.1, we plan on releasing a gvSIG Educa version for secondary education for both Windows and Linux. And I think that's it from me. Let me add that we rely on you, we count on you for improving gvSIG. All these improvements and novelties are very frequently the result of your contribution, so I encourage you to continue participating in the project. Thank you.
Perdona,
No,
me he quedado
no pasa nada.
sin
No,
batería
tú
y
ya
no te
sabes
podía
que yo
avisar.
lo tenía
Ya lo sé.
descargado también.
There are many new things in this section, so we could speak for 3 days about this. And now we are going to see some of the new things, and we'll leave the questions for the end. Now we have Cesar Martinez, which is which is the representative of another company belonging to the association, and he is going to speak about improvement in the context of the IDEX project. These are new improvements in the map document of the gvSIG 2.1.